Welcome to the Winners and Losers Show. Hello, everybody. It's me, Hank, the host of the show. Episode 167, Getting Canned. We're not done yet. We just got started. Welcome. You're putting in a shift here at the world's headquarters for Hank Thompson updates and news. Do you want to hear me ramble about chronic despair or the news? I was going to say, or my life, but, both. I'm experiencing all sorts of despair in my own world, but then I look at the internet all day long and I absorb all the despair that rolls in from the photon machines that we surround ourselves with. Have you ever thought about it like this? This is not what I was planning on getting into. There's a certain amount of time your eyeballs will be open. And actually, photons are still entering your eyeballs while you're asleep. They're just filtered through your eyelids, substantially filtered. But if you close your eyes, you can still kind of see shapes. Do that. Fun way to spend a night. I'm saying wave your hands in front of your eyes while your eyes are closed. But there's in the same way that your heart beats a certain number of times in its life. Maybe if you're healthier, it beats some percentage points a little bit less. But we all live about 80 years. I know this is just, what's the word I'm looking for? Charts and stuff. The people that do charts and just understand societies through charts. There's a term for that. But it's also similarly with photons. You are only going to have your eyes open for a certain amount of time in your life. And every time your eyes are open, photons are entering them. If you actually really stop and think about it, you are constantly moving through fields of glowing light. Like these are lights coming off that blue thing right there, and lights off of that. But things that don't emit light are actually emitting light. They're emitting their own color as reflective light that bounces off of them because they don't absorb the colors. Something red is emitting red light, and it's a field of light that you can see from all angles. It's miraculous. Okay, why am I getting on about that? Your photons are taking in light, and so who's in charge of the photons? Who's in charge of what light you see? Who's in charge? And that's your influence. Your memories. Sorry, not your memories. Your sound is another input. Photons are an input. The memories you have and the way you process information, your construct, your internal mind, your internal construct as a social being with a complex brain takes all that input and then does a lot of weird stuff with it. It kind of becoming an input on its own. I think that's kind of what a memory is sort of. Memories don't really happen in the past. People think of memories as being something from the past. No, a memory is actually a present experience. It's something drawn up from your mind, and then you're experiencing it in your imagination currently, in the current time frame. You don't time travel when you have a memory of something. So in a sense, it's kind of an input. So is knowledge and other things that we're learning, and those are all approximate concepts for what's really going on inside the brain. And that's a big part of how power works too, is the way who gets to decide what photons are allowed to be out there and what sound waves. That's what control of media means, honestly. That's what happens from influence, especially with this social nature. Something's been going on this week. This is not. God, I have so much planned already, and I'm just rambling now. Patreon is up to $8 a month. We're blowing up, guys. We're blowing up. It's happening. Went from 7 to 8. I'm amazed. Patreon.com/winners and losers. Put a little wind in my sail. Help me keep going here. I'm already entering the I've always been in the self-doubt phase, but shit. Now it's gone. God damn it. The thing I was gonna say about Bluesky. So this annoying thing has been happening on Twitter the last few days. I'm sure if you're not on Twitter, it doesn't matter at all. But everybody's fleeing the stench of Elon Musk's Twitter. We got a little update about that too. Also, some Crowder talk, and you've probably seen the title, so you probably know what's in it. But there's we're going to go over the abuse that Crowder did to his wife or does to his. It's terrible. SpaceX updates about the debris fallout from the launch last week, and a couple other things. I got a Don Lemon audio to play too. And Joe Biden and Kamala Harris are also going to make an appearance. Friends of the show. My thing keeps bending. It's not. I need to somehow rig it up better so it stops doing that. I can bend it back. Bluesky is a Twitter alternative. There's been a bunch like Mastodon, Grumble Hub, Dim Dong, All's Well. I'm just making shit up. Ends well. All's well that ends well was in my brain. So recently, though, this week there's been all these people begging for invites for Bluesky. It's kind of pathetic. Not gonna lie though, I totally feel that pull of like, oh, they're getting invites. So how do I get an invite? I think that's kind of what drove much of Facebook's early marketing successes. Back in the oh man, I didn't mean to have Biden on screen so soon. I'm sorry. He's so handsome, it's distracting. Our leader is handsome. What if that was like the thing I cared about most? So the kind of pathetic reaching for the Bluesky has been all over Twitter. But there's also like real world material reasons people want to have a social media platform where they can communicate, because Twitter has offered a lot of contact. The social media stuff is ridiculous. It just seems like humanity is experimenting in ways, doing some kind of prank, some sort of torture experiment, some sort of psychological experiment on itself right now that is affecting everybody. It seems like, or at least I'm sure there's people who aren't on it that must just find it all very confounding. I aspire to get a life more where I'm not using it much. I would like to do a podcast and build stuff, like build woodworking products for Patreon people, or do cool projects and do cool videos and other things, and really keep my head out of the fucking internet. As I'm trying to build a career on the internet. I'm saying that. But I don't know. I'm not even fault. So I'm not really faulting the people who were sort of pining to get their Bluesky invitation, because if you keep it as a limited resource, it's the same thing as putting a line outside your nightclub that's not actually. It just appears to be a crowd. And if you dole out the invite slowly and you only allow some people to invite others, then you can generate all this buzz. And then doofuses will talk about it on their podcasts. The early days of Facebook was like that, I guess. I mean, I recall kind of. I didn't get it. So someone had to talk me into getting on Facebook. I was on it late in like 2008. I remember some girls like, "You're not on Facebook? What?" Because it's been around forever. But they were sort of on college campuses. So at Harvard, I think, was the first. I don't know the whole story, but their initial rollout was expanding to different college campuses, and you had to have an invite to get on. And I think that really drove a lot of it. Plus, it was just a creepy, pervy kind of thing. You know, Mark Zuckerberg is just this socially awkward dork who doesn't have it, shouldn't have anywhere near the privilege or power that he enjoys in this world. But you know, the original concept of Facebook was stolen photos of people where they could rate people's faces. It's really gnarly. The Catholic Church of social media, if you will. So Bluesky, though, one thing that just jumped out at me, I think I tweeted this slightly or whatever, or a version of this thought, but just how interesting. I sort of picture people's consciousnesses as sort of like little flocks of bugs or little flocks of birds, maybe. And they sort of hover around these social media things. And the social media things open up like flowers, and they present themselves. They invite attention. They want you to come over and investigate and drink from their sweet, sweet nectar, but they're going to get something from it too. They're going to take a little, because that's the flower and the bug are the bee, especially the bee, but I think there's other pollinators. But it's a remarkable transaction that they've figured out. I'll give you a little bit. You can probably feels good to stick your nose in that beautiful flower, as we all like to do every once in a while. And meanwhile, you're also going to be visiting multiple of our flowers and spreading our pollens to the various stamens that await, and allowing for reproduction, allowing plants to reproduce in a way that it's how plants have sex. And actually, human sex also involves crawling bugs. If you're not careful, wrap it up and spray it. So social media companies are kind of like flowers to humans. They're putting up this thing. You know, bees can see black light or some shit. They can see UV lights, so the flowers look different to them. I don't know, but like, it's like our brains go up, but we're also influenced by the fact that there's other humans kind of buzzing towards the same flower. I just really picked up on that with this Bluesky thing, and we're seeking approval, validation. We're seeking the likes, the dopamine hit you get when that little button goes off. I get such terrible return for my time on Twitter. Honestly, like I've got a few connections. Mike Judge follows me on Twitter. I DM him good night every night. No, I don't. I would be terrified to DM him. Which is, I would be terrified. It would just be like, well, this is ruining this bridge forever. Let me send him a dumb message. Mike, I love your shows. I would like to be. I feel like I could do what you do. He must hear bullshit like that from morons like me all the time. But Twitter's not a complete waste. But for my the amount of effort, my 50,000 tweets. I started in 2009. I used to. I don't tweet as much as I used to, and I am looking at it more than I probably should be. But for that level of output, the return has been like barely anything. I still get like maybe 1 or 2 likes at most, often 0, which is about the same as I was when I was like starting out on Twitter. It's like some people are like, yeah, I got a Twitter for a few years. I got a couple 100,000, or found my audience. And it's like, nah, I just don't. I don't, whatever it is that it takes to sort of click the buttons correctly, I don't do on Twitter. I just don't do that. I think there's a few people that dig what I do, and it's a good place for me to probably put out these podcast links and stuff eventually, maybe if there's more of an audience for that. But yeah, it's a total way. It's dumb. It's dumb that I use it for, is what I'm saying. But nevertheless, I could still inhabit its hallways, even if I might not make it all the way up to the upper levels of the holodeck offerings. I don't know why I'm going with the DS9 reference there. There's also holodecks and other Star Treks. Just been watching DS9 lately. And yeah, the Bluesky thing just really struck me as this really organic thing. It's not organic in a, I'm not trying to like obscure the technology that's being employed here, but there's this social behavior that forms around these things, and it's false though. I think it all comes from the human need for community, that instinct to feel like you're part of something, that you have some status perhaps within that group, or just that you get to be somewhere where there are others. And Twitter's now kind of it's becoming more unpleasant than it was before. The chuds are taking over Elon Musk's Nazi fucking fascist, the movement that he seems to be fighting for. He's whatchamacallit, doing permitting like governments that request oppression. He's like allowing that way more at a higher rate than before he took over and stuff. So that whole free speech absolutism is always bullshit. Whenever someone says, I'm a big free speech absolutist, it's like, no, you're not. That's bullshit. That's what people say who are trying to take away other people's rights generally. It's a very rare person who says that, but who actually literally means it and lives by it. Nobody is. Free speech is a protected right, as it should, but there are absolutely limits to it that are just baked into the way human culture works. That's not what I'm here to talk about. So, yeah, that's good. I do have a little bit about Elon's stuff later. Maybe we just fucking get it out of the way real quick here, because it's not that interesting. This is an update from last week. Edit graphics. So there is, as I was speculating about Elon forcing high profile people like Stephen King, LeBron James, and people with over 1 million followers to be blue check subscribers that also said that they had paid for it. That was misrepresenting what it was. I'd say I've seen a few other links for it that I hadn't collected, but I did get this here from, let me turn it on here in my browser viewer, transition it over. There we go. This is from Above the Law, which seems to be like a law-based website that does like blogs or law stuff. So it's lawyer industry shit. I'm not going to read all of it, but the headline here: Elon Musk flirts with libel while apparently trolling Stephen King, LeBron, in heartbreaking work of staggering stupidity. Indeed. Imagine blowing up a multi-billion-dollar rocket being the second dumbest thing you did on a Thursday. This is written April 21st, 2023. So he kind of summarizes a bit of the stuff you've already heard me talk about, the Stephen King, LeBron James stuff. And then he gets to here. He says, this is where, so let me toss the writer's name out there. That's probably appropriate. Joe Patrice. Okay. This is here's Joe writing. This is where Musk has launched himself into potential legal jeopardy, because the company he runs is making the claim to a very wide audience that King and James have subscribed to Twitter Blue and verified their phone numbers, which is false. And in the case of Twitter, in the case of Twitter Blue, The subscription itself mainly serves to signal that you're shamelessly willing to pay a right-wing billionaire to use Twitter. That might cast the celebrities in a negative light, all on its own. But you don't even have to go that far, because proclaiming that they subscribed amounts to stating as if it's a fact that they are liars. Calling someone a liar can be an opinion unless you know as a verifiable fact that they are not a liar. Like, say, if the speaker personally knew that King and James had not lied about subscribing. So then Elon says, you're welcome to Stephen King in one of them, and our writer here, Patrice, I already forgot the other name, the other part of his name. He goes, he just admitted it. In this case being that he knew for a fact that King was not subscribed to Twitter Blue despite the latest. So anyway, he does a little bar exam refresher. So I'm not going to go on and on, but it seems like there's possibly some legal liabilities he's stepping into. It is just a really icky, like, this guy's just like pretending, you can't do that. You're not allowed to say that people are endorsing your product when they're not, and just foisting labels and pretending that they're paying for something or not. I don't know. Maybe it might, you never know. I mean, some of these celebrities have enough money, or maybe take enough umbrage to turn some lawyers loose, spends more money than it would have cost just to pay the $8. Not because it's obviously not about the money, but who knows? Who knows what will happen? So, yeah, you get to be a dumb dipshit when you're Elon Musk. All right, good. I'm going to close out of that one. Okay, we're going to talk about Joe Biden real quick. I don't have a lot to say. Going to watch his announcement video. Guess what? I know you might have already heard, but for those of you that haven't, you take a moment to sit down or stand up, whatever is most comfortable. He's running. He's back for more. He ain't giving up. He's not going to let being 145 years old stop him from becoming president when he turns 180 in 2024. What's it going to be, 85? I don't know. I don't know the actual numbers. But we got a tweet from President Joe Biden. There's also been some stories in the news about how he's hard to schedule because he doesn't work much because he's so old. He doesn't. He only works between like 10 and 4. You know, he's got kind of shortened hours. Apparently, I've been seeing some reporting. And last week I was also going to bring up Dianne Feinstein. I'm not going to get. I mean, I had some bookmarks, but I'm just, she's also. Ageism is okay with politicians. It's one of the few industries where it's actually somewhat appropriate. You're making decisions that affect people's lives. You've got 5 to, I should say, let's say 10 minutes to 10 more years left on the planet when you're in your 80s. You could come at any minute, and you get to just sit there and make decisions about what people in their teens and zeros and young people are going to have to deal with your viewpoints, especially in a world where technology and culture seems to change so rapidly. We should at least have people who know what email is. And Dianne Feinstein's costing the very narrow Senate majority tremendously with her refusal to quit, to retire, because she's out of it. And there's a whole that instigates an entire, I'm sure there's a whole power struggle thing happening within the various lieutenants of the of Team Feinstein versus Team not Feinstein. So the New Yorker magazine printed a thing. I didn't read it, but it said, "Is it sexist to ask for Dianne Feinstein?" No, we don't want Republican policies. We need her vote in this fucking sclerotic Senate, the most anti-democratic institution in this country. Although I'd say maybe the Supreme Court probably takes that prize. So she needs to go because she's old and out of it. Even Bernie, man, I'm disappointed Bernie endorsed Biden. That was actually kind of annoying because he was probably going to eventually. One of the things about Bernie that my leftism rankles me a bit is his how nice he plays with the Washington insiders. I imagine that's partially a consequence of being the only decent person in the Viper pit for so many decades. Kind of probably a survival thing for him, to be frank, to be Hank. And he doesn't need to do that, though. I think he's tarnishes his legacy somewhat by giving it up so easily. He at least could have fought for something to get his thing. But he always talked about his friend Joe, his good buddy Joe. And Joe is, fucking one of the greatest demons of our society. His entire career has been dedicated to harming people, to upholding the white supremacy and the capitalist nightmare planet that we're trapped on. school debt closures, mass incarceration, school debt closures. Let me just say this. That's a word salad there. Making it so that you can't discharge school debt in bankruptcy. It's like the only kind of bankruptcy that they don't allow you to get rid of. It's the only kind of debt they don't allow you to get rid of in bankruptcy. That's real sweet. That's awful nice of you. Thanks for that, Joe. His support for the Iraq War, his deeply racist career defending white supremacists, being buddies with them, his participation in the Anita Hill hearings, but also just like the aggressive, tough on crime, crazy nonsense that's just ripped apart families, as America does, because that's what we do, is we benefit from people's stress. So anyway, he's running again. Aren't we all so lucky? Joe Biden. We're not like it. The sort of stupid part of a one-termer president, if it's known, because I think I recall him saying some stuff about like he's a transitionary, he'll help bridge us from the Trumps to the next generation of folks, or something like that. Made some kind of comment about that during the run or something. But if he just announces he's only going to be a one-term president, then he's immediately lame duck. So it reduces your power. This is the kind of palace nonsense that it's true, quote unquote, but it's just like the same kind of, complex, invisible ways that human power is conducted, in the way we do it through, this kind of power structure, through what we think is democratic. I don't think that any of us really understand what true democracy would really feel or look like. But so he can't necessarily say he's not running. He almost has to pretend. Let's hope that this is a pretending to run. I doubt it is. I think the guy's probably got enough of an ego to try to do that and be a two-termer president. The one-termer presidents is no good. We don't like one-term presidents. It's shameful. You're a losing cuck if you're a one-termer. So let's just click play. I have not watched it. Let's see what he says. Okay, we've got different shots with each one of those beats of the various intensities going on within our nation.
Freedom. Personal freedom is fundamental to who we are as Americans.
It's just such a fucking right-winger framing right off the bat. Freedom. Like the messaging around freedom is actually something, and patriotism is something I think the left could probably take, and seems to generally shy away from. Not that I would consider him on the left. I'm not saying that per se, but personal freedom is very much along the lines of like personal responsibility, individualized action. You would be so much more free in a more collective society. You wouldn't be constrained by the ways that we're constrained by the strangling of your human needs. Your human potential is strangled because we allow for-profit corporations to control the choke points of human flourishing, which is to say that if you can't flourish, if you have to work all the fucking time, if your needs as a human are held as false scarcities by a capitalist system, you're not free. If all those things were there, taken care of, and people's jobs were, people would work for that, understanding, knowing that their contributions to their world was that other people's freedom was expanded because we didn't waste food the way we do. We didn't waste all this stuff, waste electricity the way we do, the way we produce and distribute all the kind of things that we need as human beings to be healthy. You could argue you don't need electricity, but we're talking about the world we're in right now. Let's keep going. Freedom.
There's nothing more important, nothing more sacred. That's been the work of my first term, to fight for our democracy. This shouldn't be a red or blue issue.
It should be a purple issue. It should be a polka dot. They're doing mixed aspect ratios here, which is a little bit annoying because it's already a square video for Twitter for the socials, but then they're doing like small square and then they're doing like tall vertical video. I find this a little annoying. That's an artistic choice. It's not annoying by default, but I just don't like the way it's being used. Why is it small?
To protect our rights, to make sure that everyone in this country is treated equally and that everyone is given a fair...
To make sure that 14-year-olds have to live their lives based on what 90-year-olds think should happen.
...shot at making it. But you know, around the country, MAGA extremists are lining up to take on those
MAGA extremists are lining up to take back this. Now they're doing like, Trump January 6th insurrection stuff.
Rock freedoms. Cutting Social Security that you paid for your entire life while cutting taxes.
Obama tried to cut Social Security. He tried to reduce, I don't remember this precise, but he tried to reduce the rate of growth, which is a way of cutting Social Security, which means he's trying to make people work more for the demons. These guys are all on board for that. But this is one of those topics that I'm not saying anything Biden is, unless I'm misinformed. And I'm sure I'm missing all kinds of stuff.
The very wealthy, dictating what healthcare decisions women can make, banning books, and telling people who they can love, all while making it more difficult for you to be able to vote.
Ban love and tell people who they can book. That's like who they can book. I'm bad at booking. It's why it's hard for me to get guests on this fucking podcast. He's walking slowly with Kamala now. Yes. Kamala hugged his wife in order to distract. The one shot was Kamala Harris hugging Jill Biden. And the next shot is Joe Biden hugging a lady. And I think that Kamala was doing that. I'm going to rewind it a little bit. In order to cause a distraction so that Jill wouldn't notice that Biden was cheating on her. He's cheating on you, Jill!
When I ran for president 4 years ago,
get a real man!
I said we're in a battle for the soul of America. And we still are.
Oh, fast cuts. He's walking fast. He's in a good shape, man. I wish I had Joe Biden's body. I'm not going to lie. I have all kinds of body shame issues. My belly sucks.
The question we're facing is whether in the years ahead, we have more freedom or less freedom.
I do have small feet. Though. That's pretty good.
More rights or fewer? I know what I want the answer to be, and I think you do too. This is not a time to be complacent.
Hey, here's an idea about more rights or fewer. How about all the rights? Why do we get to have more? More's not enough. I don't want almost all the rights that we deserve. I want all the fucking rights. More. Yes, of course, we want to trend on the more to get to all, but fewer is worse than more. But more rights. Abortion is no longer legal. School children aren't allowed, don't have a right to safety. I don't think we're doing great in the rights. The future seems to be just a period of degrading calamities leading towards warlordism that's going to eventually result in the death of all humanity.
That's why I'm running for re-election.
Uh-oh. Biography stuff now. Okay, we got a shot of a fucking silos. These are the first silos where Joe Biden inappropriately pushed a woman up against the wall.
Because I know America. I know we're good and decent people.
I know they'll forget all the bullshit I've done and all the terrible things that I've done in my entire career.
I know we're still a country that believes in honesty and respect and treating each other with dignity.
Nope, none of that's true. Nope. We don't treating each other with dignity. What the fuck are you talking about? This is America. If the conditions in which dignity is oh, that's okay, good. I thought I heard knocking coming from the neighbor. It was actually coming from me moving my microphone. All right, Jesus Christ, totally distraction. The conditions in which dignity is possible are the go against everything America stands for. We need people to be subjugated so that the wealthy can have more stuff. So they can control them through the absence of dignity.
That we're a nation where we give hate no safe harbor. We believe that everyone is equal, that everyone should be given a fair shot.
You hear that, hate? You hear that, hate? You get dangerous harbors, okay? Hate and danger go hand in hand.
Succeed in this country.
Kicked in. I mean, the drop. Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Every generation of Americans has faced a moment when they have to defend democracy. Stand up for our personal freedom.
Somebody hug my wife so I could go cheat on her with it. It's only hug cheating. He's just like leaning over and sniffing hair.
Stand up for the right to vote and our civil rights. And this
Fireworks.
is our moment.
Fucking worst holiday. Good music. We're really moving it here. Fireman suit, train, hard hat, people, New York, dog.
So if you're with me,
Joe Biden smiling.
go to joebiden.com.
Oh, there you go. Joe Biden.
Let's finish this job. I know we can. Because this is the United.
Is it bedtime yet? Yes, sir. It's 3 p.m. Oh, thank God. I'm so tired of this. He just like falls asleep onto the microphone. They drag him out. There's an intern trapped underneath him, but that person just has to go to bed with him. Gotta bend my fucking thing back. Okay.
United States of America. There's nothing, simply nothing we cannot do if we do it together.
Weird choices. You got one chance to lose at the moment. You own it. There he goes. He's doing it. On the whole, that's a decent video as far as these videos. I hate that kind of analysis. Well, I'd say this, as far as these kind of measures. Who am I? Michael Schur? Come on, get out of here. Yeah, all right. So he's running. That's fine. It's, he's better than the Republicans. That's the only fucking thing he should ever say. It's just like, so he wants to finish the job. Here's I did want to share this because this came across. Kamala Harris. She's known for doing these sort of. I gotta think she's trying to improvise. And when you're a politician, it's easy. It's better to just keep pretending that your falling is on purpose. Trump does this in his own way. I'd say obviously she's a more talented person than he is, but like they're different kinds. I'm not trying to say it's the same thing, but Trump will do this thing where he'll misread a word and then he'll just barrel forward as if that's how you're supposed to say the word, or he'll say it again that way. Yeah, he does a lot of that. There's plenty of people out there that are breaking down the way Trump is. But she has her version of it, which is where she just starts saying the same thing again and again and again. And they're kind of funny. They're kind of entertaining. It doesn't inspire a lot of confidence. It's certainly just a clip. I don't have the full context. Maybe she's at a convention where this is how they're supposed to be. But I look at this as more of a verbal tick than really a commentary on her like intelligence or something. But I do think she is like a creature of the sickness that is killing society. The one example that always comes up in my head is that she was the district attorney in San Francisco, California district attorney, and there was a case against the Catholic Church that had been building with the previous DA, who was working with victims and like really pushing on a case. The Intercept did a piece on this, the news magazine or news site, The Intercept. And when she got in there, she like quashed that investigation. She just turned her back and stopped working with the victims who were, advocates for trying to have their childhood sexual trauma at the hands of religious figures, some sort of justice. And so she denied those people that justice using procedural bureaucracy. So that's for that reason alone. I'm always just like, which is just exactly the perfect kind of example of what these people are, that they'll, they're happy to just let child victims languish in order to avoid the potential discomfort of having to maybe call out some of these fucking freak child rape organizations that we call religions. So here, let's listen to her. Here's a word salad.
So I think it's very important, as you have heard from so many incredible leaders, for us at every moment in time, and certainly this one, to see the moment in time in which we exist and are present.
Mm-hmm.
And to be...
It's up for everybody in this moment to seize the moment in time in which we exist and are present. I agree.
Be able to contextualize it, to understand where we exist in the history and in the moment as it relates not only to the past, but the future.
Oh. So the moment is somehow in the context of the past and the future. And that's the moment in time. Time, moment, present, past, future, time, context, moment, time. All right, that's fun. We did it. We're done. Don Lemon is out of, I got to get through this. We're going to finish this in an hour so I can go back down to the park. And the mangoes are almost ripe. I don't know. That's a weird thing. What if that was what I was doing today? Do mangoes grow on trees? No idea. I feel like they grow on groves, right? Wasn't that what they call them? Mangroves? It's where they grow mangroves and the mangrove groves. I don't know. Don Lemon's out. I don't really care much about this. It's not that big. I don't give a shit. It all happened part of the big news with Tucker Carlson and Don Lemon getting shit canned. It's interesting, I guess, in from a cultural sort of news media watcher sort of way. I think the Tucker is a bigger deal just because he's a prominent figure on the white nationalist TV show that is Fox News, and he's gonna, he has a big influence on this world. Sadly, he's such an obvious bullshitter. But I just wanted this as an excuse. First, well, let's just play this. I don't know what this is. Don Lemon and then CNN.
A big development today at our own network, CNN parting ways with anchor Don Lemon.
Oh,
another stunning announcement. This comes earlier.
What if Don Lemon was out because he lost in BattleBots? What if he was on BattleBots? They got like, oh, the flame slinger is got the wheels spinning real hard, and Don Lemon's in that cage, and he's getting his toes bashed by some big robot hammer. I don't know. That's not funny.
This came actually in an email to CNN staffers from CEO Chris Licht over at CNN. I'll read you what
Don Lemon had won 13 matches in BattleBots until facing his ultimate nemesis, the woman.
Said in his email, he said, CNN and Don have parted ways. Don will forever be a part of the CNN family, and we thank him for his contributions over the past 17 years. And it goes on, but Don Lemon came out and he was more explicit. He said that the network had fired him, and then he really lashed out and said that he was hoping that someone in management would have had the decency to tell him directly about this firing and
the decency. So Don wanted the decency, but the CNN's reporting this. We're just parting ways. He wanted to go that way. We wanted to go this way. That's what's happening. We used to be both going the same way. We're going that way. He's going that way. We parted ways. By the way, I don't know. This means nothing. I'm just sensitive to beard stuff right now. This guy has a nice beard, but you can tell he has to trim it so that it's lower than his mustache. He looks like one of those dudes where his beard would be all the way up. You can kind of see the 5 o'clock shadow, like all the way up right to below his eyes, kind of like right touching where his eyeglasses sort of sit on his cheeks. But he's clearly like trimmed down that top line to be lower than the mustache. You don't want the top of your beard to be like connecting to your mustache at your nostrils. You know what I mean? This is one of the things I feel such grief about with the loss of my beard as it's continuing to fall out. I've never trimmed the top. I've always had a really nice kind of top line that I never had to manage. It's what most upsets me about having to trim off this beard is that I'm getting closer to the point where I should shave it off completely. And that was about a year ago, really, when I should have. But then I have to shave it every fucking day. And I'm going to have like patchy fuzz, it's still going to be like partial hair. And I just hope it stops before my eyelids go, or my eyelashes, my eyebrows. I don't want to be one of those people with no eyebrows. No offense. I think it's some kind of alopecia. Is it the entire body? Maybe. I'm the real NoHo Hank. Okay. I've been watching Barry. I really want a girlfriend. God damn it. Barry is such a good show to watch with the Hollywood girlfriend. Wouldn't it be? Come on, Hollywood girlfriends. Get over here. Let's watch Barry. It's about acting class and stuff.
And separately saying that what Don Lemon had said was not accurate, that Don Lemon did have the opportunity to meet with management. So there's back and forth playing out.
All right, go on a podcast, Don. Start a podcast. But this is the reason I wanted to talk about this. I imagine this contributed to his firing. He said the weirdest thing about women. Talking, I think the context was Nikki Haley was saying some stuff, and I think she was formally announced at this point, but she's running. She's a former or current governor or something. I think she was a ambassador of some sort in Trump's administration. I don't know. I'm revealing my ignorance. Somewhat prominent, I guess, slightly national figure. Total fucking part of the Republican, system and all that stuff that we all don't. We're all so frustrated and annoyed by. Let me see if I can get it to look better in my shot there. It doesn't really. Whatever. It's fine. You'll deal with it. So here's Don Lemon talking about surprising his co-hosts with an opinion about whether Nikki Haley is ready for the big show.
I think it's the wrong road to go down. She says people, politicians or something are not in their prime. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime. Sorry. When a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s and maybe 40s.
What are you talking? Wait.
Maybe 40s. Some women in their 40s pretty good. That's when it starts to go south, though. You could be a big sloppy mess in your 40s, or you could be pretty damn hot in your 40s. But 50s, not prime. Only 20s and women are in their prime. So here, I'll rewind a couple seconds. We'll listen to the two. He's flanked by two young women who are in their prime. And a woman in her prime will not hold back. It is one of nature's most powerful predators, both prey and predator. So you be careful, okay? These women are in their prime, Don, and you're surrounded. Keep your hands and your opinions away from their mouth.
What are you talking? Wait,
that's not according to me.
prime for what?
It depends. I mean, it's just like prime. If you look it up, if you Google when is a woman in her prime, it'll say 20s, 30s, and 40s. I don't necessarily.
40s. Oh, I got another
I'm not saying I
decade.
agree
She
with that.
must be in her 40s, and she seemed to celebrate when he included the women in their 40s.
So I think she has to be careful about saying that politicians aren't in their
I think
prime.
we need to qualify. Are you talking about prime for like childbearing, or are you talking about prime for being president?
What the facts are. Google it. Everybody at home. When is a woman in her prime?
I love that his argument comes down to Google it. Look it up, you fucking jerks. Women are in their prime in their 20s and 30s. Like, it's true for athletes. There's a prime age for people, for humans. We tend to be able to take do feats of strength quite better in our 20s. Our bodies can handle a lot more stress during those times. There is something to be said for that as a general thing. Yeah, like there's a prime age, but this is talking about like a presidential candidacy of all things, which is where you'd actually prefer a slightly older person. I'd say 50s or 60s is fine. I'm not against younger than that, but it's just so funny that he just. I wonder if he realizes how much he just tripped over his own dumbassness with this comment.
In 40s, and I'm just saying Nikki Haley should be careful about saying that politicians are not in their prime, and they need to be in their prime when they serve, because she wouldn't be in her prime according to
Google,
Google or whatever it is.
The one person goes Google. He's sticking to it. I just want to hear the beginning again. It's just so funny to me that it just.
I think it's the wrong road to go down. She says people, politicians or something are not in their prime. Nikki Haley isn't in her prime. Sorry. When a woman is considered to be in her prime in her 20s and 30s and maybe 40s.
What are you
That's
talking
not-
woman.
That's
Just saying, like if he had said an athlete or I don't know, a teacher. I think a teacher's prime is later than the 20s. That's because you got to develop your skills as a teacher. A teacher with 15 or 20 or 30 years experience. Now you're prime teacher. The concept of prime requires context for whatever it is you're even trying to say. But like just generically, well, women's prime is their 20s or 30s. Oh man, so funny. I'm in my prime. This is prime Hank right here. You're seeing it. This is me at my best, covered in Del Taco and Chinese food. I've not been eating well lately, although I have not been having Del Taco. I don't know why I said that. All right, well, that was fun. I enjoy seeing Don Lemon squirm with this.
It's not according to me.
prime for what?
It depends. I mean, it's just like prime. If you look it up, if you Google when is a woman in her prime, it'll say 20s, 30s, and 40s. I don't necessarily.
40s. Oh, I got another.
Yeah. So 50s, no good. You're done. You're out of here. All right, we've moved on. I already finished that one. So the SpaceX launch. What are we at here? 44 minutes. The Crowder video. Oh man, it's such a depressing. Let's try to burn through the SpaceX stuff. Let's just try to keep this light. And anyway, the Crowder thing is just really fucking dark, though. My God. So as I was saying something in the last week, it covered the SpaceX launch. I watched it. I think I might do a YouTube segment called "A Guy Reacts" or something like that. Just because I'm a nobody. I'm a guy. I'm just a guy who sits here wearing a hat and glasses. But so I had mentioned that debris had fallen. I had made a comment about the ship itself, the debris crashing, and it was actually way over the ocean. So most of that, I'm sure, all fell into the ocean. Probably landed on a shrimp boat or two. Maybe that'd be kind of funny. Someone who deserved it. But there had been, when I said that, though, I had seen some reports about debris just initially because I recorded on the same day as the explosion last week. And so, but what really went on was that the launch pad was not proper at all. They didn't do, normally they do a, like the Saturn V. So this Starship launch was compared to the Saturn V, the previous holder for the world's strongest, biggest launch vehicle. Although I don't know if that's absolutely correct. There might have been a few things recently, but Saturn V is what took the astronauts to the moon. Amazing stuff. There's some really cool documentaries about that. Just an unbelievably powerful machine. Really great series called The Wonders of the Universe or Wonders of Science or something like that. Well, anyway, the presenter is this British guy named Brian Cox, who does these. I like the way he does like space documentaries, space TV shows, where he walks around it and kind of explains the gigantic, engines, these huge thrusters, how much fuel.
This is the spacecraft that took John Young, Ken Mattingly and Charlie Duke to the moon. So this is the 120-ton moon spacecraft, if you like. And this is stage 2. And that is the stage 2 fuel tank. Inside there are 450 tons of rocket fuel. And this burned through those 450 tons in about 6 minutes, taking the spacecraft from an altitude of 200,000 feet, 38 miles, up to 114.5 miles. That's virtually in orbit. And it did that by burning the fuel in 5 engines. Now, at the time, that was one of the most powerful rockets ever built. But not the most powerful. That was this, stage 1 of the Saturn V. There are 2,200 tons of fuel in here, and stage 1 burnt through that in about 2.5 minutes. To do that, it had fuel pumps that were more powerful than a 747 at liftoff, to pump 15 tons of fuel a second into these, the F1 engines.
I think at one point during the Saturn V launch, it's getting something like 5 inches a gallon is its rate of speed. Like, it's burning through fuel so fast, it's just like 5 inches. Like, it's like literally that much, twice the length of my wiener. And the strength of the Starship launch was like, I think twice, or it's much bigger than what the Saturn V was. The Saturn V was just this immense thing because it has to launch a second rocket up. That is the second stage release. So there's like, it's a rocket on top of a rocket, and the heavier things get, the bigger that it has to become. It's sort of it's like a runaway exponential thing. But as part of that, they build these launch pads to have this fire mitigation system. In fact, here, let's got a YouTube video here. This is from Mech Design TV, launch ignition simulation for NASA Space Launch Systems. Visualization by NASA Supercomputing Center. So you just kind of see this kind of cool heat map of all the stuff going down, and it blasts it out, but they also use water to cool it all off. So a lot of that big white cloud that comes off of space launches you've seen is steam from the engines producing all this heat and exhaust that then gets mitigated into the water system. So that they have like these launch pads are complex. They have these water tanks and these pumps, and they have to flood it at just the right moment. Then light the candle and then let the thing go off. And so that they're not doing what SpaceX did. So it's a good example of what went wrong. I do have the videos picked up, but they're going to be out of, yeah, I'm going to have to change that. So this is a Reuters headline: debris blast from SpaceX rocket launch renews environmental questions. That's right. This is by Steve Gorman, April 27, Reuters. While the spectacle of SpaceX's new Starship rocket blowing up over the Gulf of Mexico riveted the public's attention, it was the explosive nature of the launch at ground level that was drawing heightened scrutiny from the government this week. The shattering force of last Thursday's launch in South Texas sent a cloud of pulverized concrete raining over a small town nearby, federal regulators said, raising fresh questions about the environmental impact of ramped-up launch operations at the site. The blast-off from the SpaceX facility adjacent to a national wildlife refuge near Boca Chica Beach also hurled large chunks of concrete and metal thousands of feet and ignited a 3.5-acre fire on nearby grounds. Damage to the launch pad, the floor of which was largely demolished during liftoff, was visible in photos of the aftermath. No one was hurt, and no dead birds or wildlife were found on lands owned or managed by the refuge. That's because the birds got turned into ashen powder and they disappeared into the wind, or they flew away. There was also videos of people's like houses. Like there's limits in noise. You're supposed to like people like over 3 miles away with their windows rattling. So yeah, environmentalists seized on the report as evidence that a more in-depth study of potential hazards to public safety and wildlife should be conducted before further Starship launches are conducted at Boca Chica. Yeah, so that's a mess. Here's some video of it. This is a Starship test flight. I think this is footage from Starship or from SpaceX themselves. Okay, that's after. Let's not. Why are we watching the after one first? Here's the one that I've been seeing a bunch of. There's a white van. This is 2 minutes long. But watch the white van. It's got some camera equipment mounted up on it. So, in the lower left corner, we've got kind of a circular shot here. It's ready to go. History in the making. One of the world's dumbest, most annoying people is having his dreams come true. His dream of accelerating the destruction of land for profits. But here it comes. Big boom. Keep your eye on the white van. As concrete is now being launched at tremendous speeds. Boom. Something just like rips through it. That is crazy. Watch this. One more time. White van. Smash. Damn. That's some VFX artist react stuff right there, man. Yeah, so we got all these like impacts of debris and stuff flying everywhere. Crap flying into the camera. Pretty cool. Good special effect. I'm just scrubbing through it right now. Big wind hits the tree. That's kind of fun. Always love a palm tree fighting off some wind. This isn't supposed to happen. This is a very sloppy, cutting costs, cutting corners. I think there's some commentary from Elon Musk about we didn't have time or some bullshit. Here's a shot of the people notice that if you keep your eye on the ocean here, that you see all these impacts of stuff just impacting. So we've got a big cloud rolling off the left side, but then you start seeing all these like little white splashes in the ocean of a whole bunch of them. Just a bomb. I mean, a space launch is basically a bomb. It is a controlled explosion. That's why they blow up when they're not done well. And then here is just like a shot of a bunch of the wreckage and stuff. So lots of engineering needs to happen to make this thing safe. It's doable. It's not completely unlikely. But they clearly crossed a bunch of lines and are creating a whole bunch of problems. This is the launch pad itself. Massive devastation, a giant crater. That's the other thing, though, is that it's thought that if you recall the launch, I don't think I have a video of that, but the array of all the different little engines that were lit up, they're actually quite big. They're called the Raptor engines. They weren't all on. Now, some of that might have been on purpose, but it's thought that there's a very decent chance that the impact, the crater, the explosion at the launch pad that was not protected could have caused damage to those things. Even though with all the force coming out of the rocket, you're still not mitigating all that force properly. So it's very plausible that something bounced up and got its way into the very complex dynamic physics happening right beneath the rocket and damaged one of those things. So that would have to be fixed. Yeah. I didn't transition it over. Damn it. Okay, there it is. So pretty sloppy. Pretty sloppy stuff. Here's a futurism article. Debris rains down on protected wildlife after Starship explosion. And then the subhead is, there's a price to pay. It's kind of so funny, man. Here, let's listen.
Debris rains down on protected wildlife after Starship explosion.
She didn't say.
SpaceX's first orbital Starship launch.
Are you kidding me? I wanted that lady's voice saying there's a price to pay. I was going to use that as a drop. Here's just the first sentence.
Saw the most powerful rocket ever built soar to epic new heights. But before the behemoth spacecraft could make it into orbit, it started tumbling uncontrollably through the sky.
Skipping ahead.
Most pristine shorebird habitat, with the American Bird Conservancy warning last summer that SpaceX's continued efforts in the area to develop its Starship will continue to harm endangered birds. As Texas Public Radio reported earlier this week, just 2 days before the latest explosion, SpaceX is doing considerable damage to the nesting habitats, like leaving behind destructive ATV tracks and giant pieces of blown-up Starship prototypes that are littering algae flats, important feeding grounds.
I mean, that sounds like a Mandalorian set, just like wrecked spaceship parts and stuff. I've seen SpaceX facilities, believe it or not. When I had a job driving Teslas for 5 weeks. I thought I was going to have a job for longer than that, but it was this company that gave rides in Teslas, sort of like a mix between a Uber and a train station. It was like designated drop-offs and stuff. But yeah, I had this job, and one of the places in LA where you go to recharge your Tesla for free at one of the superchargers is at the SpaceX facility. I think it's in Hawthorne. That's where their headquarters is, I believe. And you just drive right into it. You have to drive past their factory, and there's like cones of rockets and shit just like sitting out on pallets. There's all kinds of people walking around, people on bikes to get to this Tesla spot. And then there's like these bays for the Tesla things. So I've seen some of this. Not that I'm some expert on it. It was interesting. I mean, I was kind of intrigued by it. I want to hear her say this word here. It's a Plover.
Having that many plovers half a mile from this launch pad sending off the largest rockets known to mankind right now really makes you wonder what's going to happen to those guys for sure, just on the local environment. And that's a big price to pay, especially considering the simple fact that the rocket could have been developed in a way that didn't involve countless explosions, as NASA's Space Launch System goes to show. Besides, it didn't have to happen in the middle of a wildlife sanctuary.
All right.
More on the launch.
Hold on. Settle down. Yeah, nailed it. Thanks, lady. Thanks for taking some of the work off my shoulders here. Yeah, so they fucked it all up. They did a whole bunch of stupid stuff. They cut corners. They didn't want to, it should be embarrassed by it, but it'll just be another one of those. Well, that's what happened. Here's a tweet that it shows some of the sand that got blasted all over the place. I wonder if it caused like scratching damage or something. People are gathering up all this sand, and it might have like chemicals and shit radiated into it, or I don't know, radiated, but who knows? I don't know. What the hell? This is another look at some of the debris. I think I just used that one to find. And Spaceflight Now has live coverage. This is just a kind of a blog of some of the damage and stuff. There's this thing there. So okay, cool. Well done, Hank. CNBC. That's where I get all my space news. SpaceX Starship explosion spread particulate matter for miles. Yeah, here we go. Environmental engineers and advocates are concerned that the ash and sand-like particulate matter could hurt people's respiratory health and could irreparably harm endangered species in the area. I mean, that's the future we're gonna like. If humanity, if climate change doesn't force us all into the necessary, like, violent overthrow of the economic system, because it's going to change how food is produced and distributed, we could build out a society with proper like space launch abilities, and it would still mean consumption, though. It still mean using up land, but there's ways to do this stuff that respects people, respects wildlife, but you're going to be using some of it no matter what. You're just planting a footprint down. But there's like a kind of a nightmarish version of this, though, where we're still going to follow through. We're still going to be able to produce a lot of this technology for decades more. I don't think the warlordism is going to necessarily kick off for those of us listening to this right during our lifetimes. But I just see this horror of all of it, which is that pollution is distance. We just hurt people for. I don't want to say, I hesitate to say greater projects or something like that, but we are okay with the damage that much of our economic world and our economic activity causes, because it's only hurting people with no political power. The residents of these communities that were doing fine before SpaceX showed up, the environmental devastation of all the pollution and the testing and the rocket testing and all the misfires and all that stuff, our over-reliance on fucking cars. There's been some stories I've been seeing in the news lately about that. But I'm just picturing it being like a more developed society, though. But we're still just going to have these areas of sacrifice zones, where we are just going to allow that to be something, which we probably, would be doing no matter what kind of economic system we had, in a way, based on all the waste that we produce, nuclear waste, plastic waste, landfills, such and whatever else. So, yeah, it's pretty dumb, pretty ugly stuff. So, okay, Steven Crowder. All right, we'll just do like a quick kind of go over this. I'm sure you've already heard, and I'm sure I've probably seen the clips that were on Twitter. Steven Crowder severely abusing his wife. She's 8 months pregnant, as a lot of pregnant ladies do, especially in the comfort of their own back patio area. Looks like they have a nice pool. You can kind of see it in the shot. A brick. I don't know. I don't like that color brick. I find that a little bit too bright, but that's not the point of this video. They have this kind of sun-shaded, relaxing area, and she's got her belly out. She's very pregnant. She's they're seeming to be talking about her not fulfilling her end of the deal that he seems to want her to. And this is highly abusive. This is like mental control. You can really hear it in her voice, how scared, how nervous she is, how much she's having to ameliorate his feelings. So I'll just hit play here. This is nasty stuff, though. And this guy, this is the conservative men, the real defenders of the family and of what's right and protecting children. He's smoking too, by the way. He's smoking a cigar, of course, which is another one of those right-winger dude things that I find so weird. Around his pregnant wife. We'll hit play here.
Because I drew a boundary. I drew a boundary. No, you just did it. I drew a boundary in abusive and cruel. You were not taking the car. Because if you refuse to do wifely...
If you refuse to do wifely things, you mean like pick up the latest Nicolas Cage flick from Blockbuster because you want to surprise your husband because he loves Nicolas Cage movies? No, that's not what he means. He means do whatever he tells her to do and fulfill his needs, his underdeveloped stunted growth needs. This fucking man among men, this alpha, this fucking coward.
Then I will go pick up the groceries.
Oh.
There's no groceries. I do have steaks, wood pellets, my grill. I know it's not unreasonable.
He needs steaks, wood pellets, and for his grill. And he's shaming her and saying he'll go do it.
But I'll go do it. How about you first? Hillary, how do you respect the man? Yes. How do you man? How do you man? Receive love and respect. No. How do you man? No, you're not taking love.
I think he's saying the other men you see, the mothers come back. Like, is he saying you're not being a mother? I mean, for a lot of women, this trap, this no-fault divorce thing. I actually was talking about this on one of my Valheim podcasts on Winners and Losers before this came out. Because Steven Crowder had done a video where he seemed like he was pretty nervous about some news coming up. This clearly is part of that. Maybe there's more. But he referred to the kind of the concept of no-fault divorce, which was a thing up until like the 70s or something. I don't have all the history in my head right now. But women used to not have the right to get a divorce without the man approving, meaning like it was not a one-person decision, or it was not it was up to him. It was up to your owner. It was up because you were property. You were made as to be a servant and to be property. This is what they want. This is what they want to go back to. They want women to fit into this role and to tolerate this kind of abuse. He is her child. Like, he's basically her. So for a lot of women in these kind of like horrifying domestic situations where leaving is fraught with risk, they often can't. As you can tell in this video too, that you'll hear more about, is they'll restrict their car access. I've been seeing people tweeting and talking about a lot of that. One person even said that like I don't know if it was their own family or something, but they said like they had 5 cars, but the man would take all the keys with him whenever he would leave, make sure that she had no ability to use the car. It seems like they only have 1 car. Like, clearly Steven Crowder could afford multiple cars. So for some reason he's able to control her right to move around by limiting her use of a car. And that's a very common way for abusers like Steven Crowder to control their spouse. But the mother thing is just like they're all the abuse that was suffered. So shitty parents produce shitty parents. It's not that it's a guarantee that if you have a crappy parenting, if you grow up under a stressful childhood with a bad parent, you are automatically going to be a terrible parent, but you're going to have to break the cycle, or at least arrest some of the cycle. I don't think people who do break the cycle necessarily can do it all the way. We'd like to think that that's possible, and I think it is in some cases. But Steven Crowder's dad is at work here, meaning like his I know his dad is a big part of his business and his operation. Some people have speculated that Steven probably has some sort of LGBT wrestling happening inside of him. I don't know. I don't have any evidence necessarily other than just an inkling or a feeling. Wouldn't surprise me. A lot of times the guys that are really worked up about that issue tend to have some of their own reconciling that needs to be done, to say the least. But you produce stressed out childhoods are how we end up with a society full of assholes. Stressed out children become assholes, and they become. What happens is your development stops, or slows, or is diverted into something worse. What is normally a healthy childhood development, where you're learning to enter the world and to make your own decisions and to rely on your parents and to rely on your community and to develop your own sense of self, your own sense of worth, and find what things that you like to, whatever, like the kind of ways, the sort of steps we go through in our worlds as children into teenagers, into adulthood, is not the same for everybody. People have brains that work differently. So it's a kind of a big, messy process. But when you're abused, or when you're neglected, and when you're faced with the kinds of stresses that are abundant in America, that process of developing your sense of self, stops, slows down. And so if you're lucky, you eventually get to it, or you go through phases of calamity, and then you end up being forced to confront things, cope, reparent yourself, regrow. I've definitely been in my own way. I looked after my mom in ways that were probably pretty unhealthy when I was a kid, like parentification of her needs. She had a lot of issues that were happening and were very at the forefront of many of my formative years. So I know that that's a thing for me, and it doesn't make you into a conservative. It just means that your life is now going to be on hard mode, and you're going to be susceptible to being lied to, or it might change the way you're able to trust people, either too much or too little, or something like that. Or it changes the kind of relationships that you expect, and it often informs worldviews. Like the conservative mindset, I would suggest, is one that's built around. That's why that mother's comment really jumped out at me. Like these are underdeveloped, emotionally underdeveloped men or boys whose time forced them to grow into male bodies, grown men bodies, but they're still lost in that. And a lot of people never grow out of it. A lot of people never necessarily deal with it. So that's why you have all this immature sort of juvenile jokesterism that seems to be mostly prominent on the right. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying I'm some mature example of what you're supposed to be. I would never suggest that. I love dumb juvenile humor. I used to subscribe to I can't think of it. Those literary magazines that are for snobs. I was trying to catch you off guard, but I don't have the words in my brain. Let's keep watching. I'm just rambling here. But he's telling her she can't have the car. If you're not watching this, if you haven't seen it, she's standing and he's sitting, and she's sort of got her bag around her shoulder, like she's getting ready to leave.
Steven, you're not taking the car. Steven, you are not. Then I will ask them to pick me up. Would you like me to ask? Oh, that's right.
So she even needs to get permission about who it would be okay, because if she knows that if she says I'll have my friend Stacy come get me, she knows that he'll probably she's dodging his. She knows that she's in a minefield. This is what abusers do too. They set mines all over the place, and that she has to step very carefully. So her body language, her voice, her disposition, are all indicative to me of chronic abuse, of like having to fawn, having basically to make sure that his needs are paramount, because this is literally dangerous for her. She's in a dangerous situation. People like this, he's much stronger than she is. She's 8 months pregnant with twins. This is where the violence in domestic situations comes from, this kind of thing. It's terrifying. She's a hostage.
An Uber.
Okay, Stephen, I can't.
He wants his pregnant wife to go get him pellets for his grill and steaks. And he tells her to get an Uber. She's 8 months pregnant. Get an Uber and go get me my grill pellets. And I'm going to sit here and smoke a cigar. That's fucking sick, man. What the fuck? I wouldn't let my pregnant wife do shit unless she wanted to. I mean, I wouldn't be like, I wouldn't force her to not do anything. But if she's like there's a whole dog walking thing going on here too. Bending over is hard, man. I'm fat right now. Believe me, I know what it's like to be 8 months pregnant. It sucks.
Right?
Steven.
Like, I can't
Steven.
go. Listen to me.
I'm going to rewind a little.
You want to walk out right now? Right?
Steven.
Like, I can't.
Okay, Stephen, I can't.
Feeling some constraints?
Stephen.
Like, I can't
Stephen.
go. Listen to me. Listen to me. You want to walk out right now? Listen to me. I can't go to the gym. I can't go to my parents.
Okay, so his whole feeling some constraints is him saying to her, oh, you don't like being constrained? Well, if you leave, I'm constrained. You're hurting me if you take the car. He can't go to the gym. He can't go to his parents.
I can't call my friends. I can't go. I can't be home. You're going to take the car and leave me here. Hillary, just think of how boxed in you've made me.
He's the victim. Conservative men are the victims. The world is unfair to them. And his wife is victimizing him by boxing him in. Look at how crazy that is. This guy is such a child. Actually, that's not fair to children. He's such a broken piece of crap human being. It's tragic in a sense because this stuff does source back to childhood, but he's abusing other people now. The mother of his children, of all people, too. And this is the world that they pine for. I'm sure we'll see a lot of conservative men turning up and speaking out against Steven Crowder here. I'm sure we're going to see a big flood of them. All these manly alpha boys are going to definitely call out this like well-known famous millionaire who walks amongst them. Of course not. Of course not. I think I saw someone tweet something smart or just like describe it as like, instead of seeing it as the misogynistic abuse that it is, so many are just going to see this as a guy having a bad day. That's what it is. And like my thoughts about that sort of thing is like, that's what white supremacy is it's child abuse cover up. A big part of not just child abuse, domestic abuse, spousal abuse. A huge reason these guys are so nervous and worried and freaking out that they're losing their status at the top of the hierarchy. One is that they think that the hierarchy will always be a hierarchy, that it's always going to be someone dominates. So they conceptualize others having power as doing to them what they've done to the society, to the world. They don't understand. They can't really grasp their head around. We have to even out power structures and let people live the lives that they want to live while we work towards community to help community strengthen communities for other people and ourselves. They see it all as hierarchy. But the white supremacy, the family is property thing, that is one of the vectors of such violence and horror and stress and abuse, often at the hands or primarily, I mean, abuses can also go other directions or can emanate from the woman to the man. That is possible. But the primary construct in this country was that you owned your wife, you owned your kids, and you can do whatever you want to them. And so you got lucky as a person who was born. Your luck was a huge factor in terms of, did I get a dad who beats mom? Did I get a dad who beats the kids, who hurts the kids, who does other things to the kids? Is there, like, if you got lucky, you weren't squirted out into a family that was like this. So not every family was necessarily like this. I'm not saying that. But what the major thing that they're afraid of losing, partly this whole reactionary freak out about their loss of being the dominant players in this bizarre society. It's so strange to think of a society that just venerates one specific type of person over others, is the cover up of all the abuse. Not that the abuse is all going to be, we're not going to take down the curtain and show all the abuse. And there's abuse in all men. I'm not all men. I'm not saying, not just conservatives. I'm not just only applying that to the conservative side. I think that that's the side that's pushing harder for people who use phrases like family values. They tend to be talking about situations like this. And maybe, I'm not saying they all do that, but it's also something that lefty men have to be conscious of too, and work on. It's about males. It's about this just as the people of the past were wrong about so many of the ways the world worked, they were wrong about gender, because it was convenient for them to have very simple, strict definitions, and it harms people to either you conform to it, like this woman is trying to do because she's afraid and she's at risk of danger right now. Although she finally is able to, she does divorce him. I think she actually leaves him during this day. I don't know the whole story. I don't want to. But if you don't conform to those strict gender roles, those strict kind of societal roles, then you're abused and hurt. Not to suggest. I mean, the queer side of things, autistic people were pushed out in ways. Disabled people were pushed out ways. If you're not conventionally attractive in a certain way, your value was diminished. If you weren't able to fit into the mold, they forced you to fit into the mold. A lot of people did bend themselves to fit into the mold, but not everybody could. And the world where we allow people to be who they are, we embrace the differences and the diversity and all the other stuff that's kind of cheesy, is the world that threatens their ability to hide all this abuse, all this stuff. The cover-up is a big part of the white supremacist, my family is my property thinking that they're so desperate to keep hold of. You don't talk about it. There was so much abuse happening in churches, happening in families, that was known. But it was also, well, don't bring it up. We're not going to, what am I supposed to do? Turn in the preacher? What am I supposed to do? Now you're making it uncomfortable for me. It's a lot of people were complicit in the abuse of their children by their family, their others in the family or something like that. Sometimes it didn't necessarily go that way, but the cover up, the society's willingness, because it's a difficult thing to talk about. It's also one of the benefits of, when I say benefit, I mean one of the ramifications of an individualistic programming, of making people all think of individualism, because then whenever you talk about this kind of topic, it becomes immediately threatening to talk about this, because people have an individualistic frame where their defenses come up because they feel like, oh, you're saying I was a bad parent, I was bad, I did wrong thing, I did bad things. Well, I guess in direct abuse is but there's also a culture here that then we ignore. That's the real benefit of it for the system, is that it prevents us from examining the way the system should be changed, the way the culture allowed for this kind of abuse to be normalized. And it is better, I guess. I think we're still so incredibly far. We're still in a very much dark ages with that sort of thing. It's better than it used to be. Let's just keep going here. Sorry, I keep interrupting.
You need me to pick up. I'll get it. I'll be back when I'm back.
No, that doesn't work either. You'll be back when you're back. That doesn't work either. Do you understand the difference between my life being set to the second and you going, I'll be back when I'm back?
Oh, he's being so abused by her because she doesn't know when she'll be back. It doesn't work for him. He's gonna blow more cigar smoke at her.
The only way out of this is discipline and respect.
That's the only way out of this. What the fuck? That's so weird. Discipline and respect. I need to discipline you. This is what's so twisted about it, is that he wants a mother, but he also wants a woman who he can control. Meaning, like, it's not like these broken abusers, these little damaged, underdeveloped, emotionally stunted men, quote unquote. They want to own and destroy and command. That's what ownership is. Ownership is the thing that ownership allows you, is the right to destroy, the right to use, the right to exploit, the right to share, even the right to discard, the right to control. And they own their wife. And he is telling her what she can do to get out of this. So he's putting her in a trap, and and it's discipline and respect. Like he's been reading fucking Bill O'Reilly's journal.
It's discipline and respect. It's the only way out of it, or we're at an impasse.
We are at an impasse.
Good. Because you can't have any discipline or respect.
Yeah.
So, there you go. You throw your hand, you give up so easily.
I don't give up, Stephen.
Hillary,
Stephen?
you give up so easily. I just said the only way out of this is discipline and respect. You said, then we're at an impasse.
Stephen, no, we are at an impasse, okay?
That's her basically being like, I'm gonna divorce your ass if you fucking. But she's 8 months pregnant. That is such a vulnerable state, man. The stress of this. That's another thing I was thinking about too, is like the stress of childhood, of gestation. I remember King Hartman once talking about this. I don't know. I don't have the recent science on it, but about cortisol or cortisone, the stress hormone, that in times of very stressful life, like wartime eras, the babies were born with mothers that had higher levels of stress, and therefore they probably had more like aggressive personalities that came out of that. And then like lower stress levels means a slightly better rounded, maybe less aggressive type of child. I don't know if there's any recent science about that or what that is. I'm just kind of remembering from King Hartman, Tom Hartman, the guy who spells every part of his name wrong. This is also like a horrifying thing that's happening to this infant that's in, you know what I mean? Like to the babies inside her whose mother is struggling, her whole being must just be flooded with stress hormones. You know, and she's alone. She's isolated by this guy, and that's another thing that's terrifying. So I had a bunch of notes I wrote about how wealth allows you to buy community, which is true. I mean, like, this is a woman with a lot of money. I mean, she married Steven Crowder. I've also seen some commentary like, you know, she's not that people are saying she deserves it. I didn't see that. I imagine someone has said that, but they weren't saying she deserves this. But like, she knew who he was targeting. She knew what his politics are, his prominence in the conservative movement. You know, fighting, you know, agitating for oppressing others and humiliating others and dehumanizing others. And she's married to Steven Crowder. Like, you wouldn't think Steven Crowder's wife would be of the utmost moral character, but that becomes a problem when it happens to them, and that's true. I mean, yeah, of course. Like, yeah, I feel terrible for they can hear it in her voice. Yeah, I lost track of. I had a thought there. Let's just hit play.
I love you, but Stephen, your abuse is sick. Your abuse
Watch it.
is sick.
Watch it. Fucking watch it.
I'm gonna let go. I'll get what you need me to get. And I need some space. You need to just fucking baby for a little bit. Okay? I love you. I love you very much.
I don't love you. That's the big problem. I've never received love from you. And the fact is, when I go, look, I need you to do A, B, C, and D, you just be disciplined about it. You go, no. But
you should be disciplined about his errands that he wants her to run. He sits around. This is brutal, man.
I love you more than life itself. Okay. Put on some gloves. No. But I love you more than life itself. That's not fair. That's not fair, and it's disingenuous. Hillary, you're right. We're at an impasse. Become someone, listen to me, day in and day out, worthy of a wife. No, not as a wife. I didn't say as a wife. Hillary, come on now.
There's a little glitch or something there, but he's saying become a wife who's worthy, like, it's also just so warped. It's so twisted, man. As he's lecturing her, she's trying to get out the door to take her 8-month huge belly body to do errands to get him grill pellets and walk the dog. So he talks about gloves a couple times. It's a little, you don't know, it's not obvious what that is. Apparently there's a medicine that the dog needs or something, and pregnant women aren't supposed to touch different pills, I guess. That's a thing. So he wants you to put the gloves on in order to be safely handling the medicine for the dog, I think is what the gloves are about.
I'm not going to engage anymore. I'm going to go. I'll text me what you need. I'll get you what you need. I love you. I'm committed to you.
Put on some gloves. Are you committed enough to do those things?
I'm not going to.
Are you committed enough to do those things? You're not committed to anything.
So you're not committed enough to put on gloves like I'm commanding you to. Man. Like, this should get him banned from owning weapons, right? And like, shouldn't we allow domestic abusers? This is something that is in the gun debates, the gun laws, and the right wing will always push back against the NRA funded monsters that, if you abuse your spouse or if you're caught doing something violent, it's reasonable to say, well, you're a person who's given up their right to have a gun. A gun is a very violent tool. It's capable of committing tremendous harm and violence, intimidation, threats. And if you show that you're violent, that is an indicator that we, as a society, don't want to trust you to have a tool of violence, the most effective tools that humans have come up with. But of course, this means he'll just, there won't be any of that. He'll still be able to buy as many guns as he wants. This is the guy that wears the holster. He wears his emotional support holster on air. I think he has a gun on his desk as part of his thing. This is where a lot of this stuff ends up with a husband killing their wife. Husbands are, I don't know the stats, but it's like a major part of domestic violence. And I'm sure any pushback from her escalates. And so she's telling him she loves him, she's committed to him, and she's trying everything she can to keep him from exploding into something worse. Because there's always that physical threat. Yeah, but it's gross.
You're not committed to anything. You just said I love you. I'm committed to it. Walk the dogs, put on some gloves. Walk the dogs, put on some gloves. Are you committed enough to do those things? Are you committed enough to do those things? Are you committed enough to do those things? I'm good. Walk the dogs, put on some gloves. Are you committed enough to get the medication the dogs take? Don't you take that in?
Okay, so he's standing at the door. She's sort of going in and out. She did grab the dog leash. Then a thing on screen comes up that says, the text that says, as the Crowders head inside, Stephen gets angrier and angrier and by his own admission screams, "I will fuck you up," at his pregnant wife, Hillary, who then flees their home. So she does seem to leave today, or as of this day, at least. All right. Okay. Yeah, that's ugly, man. That's nasty stuff, dude. That is just another thing that just kind of occurs to me, though, is that we're watching this. We're actually, you and I are watching this, or you're hearing this. The fact that this is out, I don't know where this came from. If it was leaked by someone on purpose, from her side or whatever, I don't know how that happened. But just the fact that this was filmed, to me, this is more of a comment. And you see Ring.com in the upper left corner of the video. Ring is not the only camera. There's all sorts of different security camera systems. You can Google Ring cameras and police overlaps and the way police get access to Ring footage and stuff like that. There's all sorts of crazy stuff happening with regards to the security state. But the surveillance, the big surveillance of our world, the reliance on security systems and technologies that has exploded lately in recent years because of the, affordability, miniaturization of cameras and drones and all kinds of, car cameras, and your phone has a microphone thing that's always running, or, all the ways that our world is surrounding us with recording devices. This is the Steven Crowder house. He's got a camera in this very private space. I'm sure he didn't want this video out. It's to cover his door, and it's not irrational to want security cameras. I'm not saying I think it's wrong. I'm saying that we've built a world where it's logical to be paranoid. We've built a world based on people like Steven Crowder agitating and advocating for insecurity as the core of the economic engine, which drives all the ways people are afraid, the nervousness, the paranoia, the notion that you expect that your home might be broken into, or that you're going to need evidence in case something happens. And that's rational. I don't think I'm not trying to say anybody who puts up cameras around their house is doing something wrong. I helped my brother install some cameras on the back of his house. And it's like, because it does make sense. If something happens, I would want a camera. I totally get it. That's useful information. But it is an emergent phenomena of a culture and a society built around paranoia and fear and worry directly, like this whole freaking concept that the that someone else is going to come into my home. And like, how do we design a society so that never happens? I don't know if it's possible, but we can design a society where everybody's needs are taken care of, where everybody's childhood is not filled with stress and not filled with isolation because they have some sort of abuser dynamic or something. There's all kinds of ways that childhood stresses lead to adults who make poor choices. There's all sorts of ways that we could make. Here's some other thing. I'm trying to get this quickly. And God damn, it's an hour and 30. Trust. How do you know a stranger is safe? How do you trust a stranger? It's not necessarily rational to trust that every person you see on the street is safe, right? You make snap decisions based on their appearance, and you kind of are ready in case you need to do something. That's sort of just the way you go through the world. People have different dispositions. But one way you could actually make it so that you know something about that stranger, what builds trust is knowing something about somebody. What builds trust is having shared interests or having a shared common experience or some sort of way of knowing something about that person. Most people you can trust. But how would we build a society where I'd never seen that person before, but I totally trust that they're not going to harm me, no matter what they look like? You'd make it so that you know that they were raised without stressed out parents. You know that they had access to all the healthcare that was ever needed for them throughout their life. Preventative care, especially, meaning like in this world, prevention would save us all so much more money in terms of the healthcare that people use. You know that they had a very, very healthy education, that they were given all kinds of opportunities. And if they were someone who needed extra help, that they had extra help. You know that if they had disability in their family, that the society provided help for them. Abundance. You know that the scarcities of the current economic era, the false scarcities, the ones of restricted human things that humans need to be healthy and whole, are not there. Meaning that we allow them to be in abundance as they are. The abundances of warmth and safety and comfort and love and security and food and shelter and electricity. Even electricity is a little complicated because no matter what, you got to make pollution to make electricity. But how do you know that stranger is someone you can trust? Well, it's because it's the way you get there is if their story is your story. Meaning that their childhood was kind of like yours. All these ways that because we have a culture built around something that actually matters. We don't do that. We don't have a sense. This is why the Democrats are offering up themselves as just being different than the Republicans, slightly better than the Republicans. It works, I guess. People are horrified by the fascist right wing right now, and they should be. But we're not offering a more cohesive, hopeful project for what a community, what a proper like future should be, which is one where we know we can trust anybody. And the world without all that trust, especially exaggerated or magnified by the accelerants of movies and shows and cultures and TV shows and games, all the ways that we are sort of conditioned to use violence as a way to solve problems, builds towards putting cameras everywhere. Is feeling safer knowing that you're recording your backyard. And then he's abusing his wife, and he's being ensnared. I don't know if that's the right word, ensnared, but he's caught. He's trapped by his own paranoia here. Like the fact that this camera we're not watching footage of someone breaking in or him puking, which would be kind of funny. Just because he got too drunk or something. We're watching footage of him being a complete horrible human being, a complete piece of crap. So I don't know. I just thought there was something kind of, I don't want to say poetic or whatever, but there's the fact that the use of this technology is very much a consequence or a downstream effect of a hyper individualized and hyper paranoid kind of society. And even maybe in the utopian world I would build, there's probably still would be cameras around the place. I'm not saying it's technology that shouldn't be used, but this is really dark stuff, man. This is really sick. This is really, really, really nasty stuff here. Yeah. All right. Okay, I'm not gonna. All right, that's fine. That's it is. Oh, finally, let's end on this. This is Steven Crowder getting beat up by union guys. This will happen about 10 years. I don't know the context. I should have looked it up, but this will be the final chunk. It's about a minute long. I'll probably pause once or twice, but he's getting yelled at by a really big, strong-looking guy in glasses, a bald guy. Don't mess with a bald guy holding a picket sign, okay, everybody? They're protesting for hair. He wants to get his hair back. No.
Get the out of my face! Don't tear down the tent! Get the out of my face! You hurt a lady in there! You're addressing me!
I do want to point out the sign behind the guy that says union busting is disgusting. I agree.
You hurt nobody! You hurt the out of my face! Back the up! Stop tearing down the tent! Back the up!
Crowder's in like a black leather jacket. He's got a scarf around. He's much younger, but he's being the jackass that he is. He's not a small dude. I mean, I think physically he's like muscular. You know. Here's a guy getting into his face. There was an edit there, so now the guy's punching him. I don't know what happened though, but the guy's swinging. Crowder just basically put his hands up and kind of like protected himself.
You got a gun! You don't want anybody to get hurt. I'll kill a motherfucker with a gun! I killed 20 motherfuckers with a gun!
All right, someone's screaming about a gun because it's America. That's what happens. The Crowder's ducking into like a white tent of some kind. Some guy grabs Crowder by the back of the collar. And they've collapsed the tent somehow. I'm not sure what the whole scenario is. Might even be Steven's cameraman because he does kind of indicate to the camera, like puts his hands up, sort of saying something there. But yeah, it's fun to watch him get punched. That's fine. You know, it's especially now that we know he's a severe domestic abuser. So yeah, I doubt he did a lot of stories like that from then on. So. All right. Well, hey, another long one. God damn it. Fuck, I should have cut it up. I knew I was pushing too hard. Thanks for watching. Thanks for tuning in. Check out Valheim if you want to see some more of that. Check out patreon.com/winners and losers. I'm sort of like posting things as sort of a clearinghouse. Trying to work on my turnaround times. This will probably go up tomorrow on Saturday. I'm not doing great with getting stuff up as soon as I'm done. I'm trying to accelerate that process. So otherwise, things are fine, sort of. Feeling okay, feeling good. Got some interesting projects in the works. Some stuff I look forward to talking about in the future. And hope you're all doing well. Hope you're taking care of yourself. Do some inventory on your own issues with not that we're all abusers trying to do inventory, but like let this cultural moment offer us a chance to reflect on the changes we could maybe our communities are hurting. What am I doing here? What am I saying? Just like, I guess there's lessons to be learned. I hope, other than the fact that, and also it's not a surprise. Just a final thought. Not a shocker at all that this is what Steven Crowder is, and that the conservative side is filled with these types of dudes. Abusers are on the left as well. I'm not trying to say that that's not a possibility, because it's not. It is very much, but fuck, this is ugly shit, man. This is the world they want, and he'll still benefit from all the patriarchy, white supremacy stuff. The people who work for him aren't going to call him out. People aren't going to quit his job. He's not going to get called out. I'd be surprised if he is. If Ben Shapiro comes out and says that was really wrong, you shouldn't be doing that. That is some bullshit. So yeah, ugly stuff. All right, that's it. Okay, I'm done. I gotta go. Gotta do stuff. Bye. See you later. Bye-bye.